People often say that money changes people, that wealth corrupts, that power transforms ordinary men into someone completely different. History tells a different story. Money rarely changes anyone. It reveals them. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. The mirror doesn't create your reflection. It doesn't decide your expression. It doesn't invent who you are. It simply shows you what was already there. Money works in much the same way. It doesn't create generosity. It reveals it. It doesn't create greed. It exposes it. It doesn't create discipline or fear or patience or insecurity. Those qualities already exist long before the first dollar is earned. Wealth simply gives them a larger stage. Think about the people you've known throughout your life. The friend who is generous even when they had very little. The person who always kept their word even when no one was watching. The individual who treated others with respect regardless of status. Do those qualities suddenly appear because someone becomes wealthy? Or were they always there? Now imagine the opposite. A person who constantly envies others. Someone who believes their worth depends on being admired. Someone willing to sacrifice integrity for personal gain. If that person suddenly becomes rich, has money created those flaws? Or has it simply removed the limits that once kept them hidden? This is why money has fascinated philosophers, kings, merchants, and economists for centuries. Not because coins or bank accounts possess magical power, but because wealth has an extraordinary ability to expose the values that quietly govern human behavior. Some people use money to build. Others use it to impress. Some use it to create opportunities for those around them. Others spend their lives chasing approval from people they don't even know. The money is the same. The character is different. Perhaps that is why two people can earn the same income, receive the same opportunities, and yet build completely different lives. The difference is rarely found in the money itself. It is found in the person holding it. For generations, we have been taught to ask one financial question above all others. How do I become rich? But perhaps that has never been the most important question. Perhaps the better question is this: when wealth finally arrives, what will it reveal about you? Because money has never been humanity's greatest test. It has always been humanity's greatest mirror. And before we learn how to build wealth, we must first understand the person who intends to hold it. Chapter 1: The Great Illusion about Money. Very few people actually want money. That may sound like a strange statement. After all, millions of people wake up every morning, go to work, build businesses, and invest countless hours trying to earn more of it. Surely they want money, but look a little closer. Ask someone why they want to become wealthy. Very few will answer, "I simply enjoy collecting pieces of paper or numbers on a screen." Instead, they'll say things like, "I want freedom. I want security. I want to take care of my family. I want to travel. I want to stop worrying. I want to live life on my own terms." Notice something. None of those answers are actually about money. They're about what money represents. Money has never been the destination. It has always been the vehicle. Imagine someone hands you the keys to the most luxurious car in the world. You admire its design. You appreciate its engineering. But eventually, someone asks a simple question: where are you driving? Without a destination, even the finest vehicle becomes meaningless. Money works in much the same way, by itself. It has no purpose. Its value comes entirely from what you choose to do with it. One person uses money to create opportunities. Another uses it to purchase status. One builds a business. Another builds an image. The money is the same. The intentions are different. This is why two people can earn identical incomes, yet live completely different lives. One feels grateful. The other never feels satisfied. One experiences peace. The other constantly fears losing what they've gained. The difference is rarely found in the amount of money they possess, It is found in the expectations they place upon it. Many people quietly expect money to solve problems it was never designed to solve. They hope it will create confidence, repair broken relationships, provide lasting happiness, earn genuine respect, or remove every uncertainty from life. Money can certainly improve many circumstances. It can provide comfort, reduce financial stress, create opportunities that once seemed impossible. But there are some things it has never been able to purchase. Wisdom, integrity, trust, meaning a person who lacks purpose before becoming wealthy often discovers that a larger bank account cannot answer questions that were never financial to begin with. Perhaps that is why some people continue chasing more and more, even after they already have enough. Not because they need additional money, but because they're searching for something money cannot provide. The pursuit never ends because the destination was misunderstood from the very beginning. So ask yourself something. If tomorrow morning you woke up knowing that every practical financial need had already been taken care of, what would you spend your days pursuing? What kind of work would still matter? What relationships would deserve more of your time? What dreams would finally receive your attention? Your answers reveal something important. They reveal that money has never been the final goal. It has always been a means to something deeper. Freedom, contribution, peace, growth, love, purpose. When you understand that, your relationship with money begins to change. You stop treating it like the destination and you start seeing it for what it truly is. A powerful tool, nothing more, nothing less. But that realization leads to another question. If money is only a tool, why does that same tool seem to bring out such different qualities in different people? Why does one person become more generous while another becomes consumed by greed? Why does wealth make one person calmer and another more fearful? Perhaps the answer has been there all along. Money was never changing them. It was simply revealing who they already were. Chapter 2. Why money reveals character. Character is easiest to admire when people have very little, but it is easiest to reveal when they have almost everything. Imagine giving to strangers the exact same amount of money, the same opportunities, the same freedom, the same financial security. Would they build the same life? Almost certainly not. One might invest in knowledge, start a business, support family members, create opportunities for others. The other might spend endlessly chasing luxury, recognition, or the approval of people they barely know. The money would be identical. The outcome would not, because money never makes the decision. The person does. This is one of the most misunderstood truths about wealth. People often believe that money creates generosity, or greed, or arrogance, or humility. But those qualities rarely appear overnight. They've usually been growing quietly for years. Money simply gives them more room to express themselves. Think about a microphone. A microphone doesn't change your voice. It makes your voice louder. If you whisper into it, the whisper becomes louder. If you shout, the shout becomes louder. Money works in much the same way. It amplifies what already exists. If discipline already guides your decisions, wealth gives discipline greater reach. If impatience governs your choices, wealth gives impatience more expensive consequences. If generosity has always been part of your character, money creates more opportunities to help. If pride has quietly controlled your life, money may simply make that pride more visible. The amplifier is not responsible for the sound. It only makes it easier for everyone else to hear. This explains something that confuses many people. Why do some wealthy individuals become remarkably generous, while others become endlessly consumed by status? Why does one person become calmer after achieving financial success, while another becomes even more anxious? The answer is rarely found in the money itself. It is found in the habits, beliefs, and values that existed long before the wealth arrived. Financial freedom expands choices. Character decides how those choices are used. That is why wealth carries responsibility. The greater your resources, the greater your ability to influence other people's lives. A single decision can create jobs, fund education, support innovation, strengthen communities, or it can satisfy nothing more than an endless desire to appear important. Money increases your reach, but it does not improve your judgment. That must come from somewhere else. Perhaps that is why history remembers certain wealthy individuals, not for how much they possessed, but for what they chose to do with it. Their fortunes gave them influence. Their character determined how that influence was used. Now consider your own life. Imagine waking up tomorrow with complete financial freedom. No debt, no financial pressure, no fear about paying your bills. What habits would become stronger? Would you become more curious, more generous, more disciplined? Would you spend more time learning, building, creating, or would comfort slowly replace ambition? Would temporary pleasures begin replacing long-term purpose? That question is far more revealing than asking what car you would buy or what house you would live in, because possessions say very little about character. Choices say everything. Every financial decision becomes a small reflection of what we value most, where we invest, what we avoid, what we sacrifice, what we protect. Money quietly shines a light on all of it, and perhaps that is why wealth has fascinated philosophers for centuries. Not because it answers the question of who we are, but because it often asks it. Money is an amplifier. It makes your habits louder, your priorities clearer, and your character far more difficult to hide. But if wealth reveals who we are, why do so many people spend it trying to convince others they are successful? Why does appearance become more important than reality? Perhaps because many people are not pursuing wealth at all. They are pursuing something that looks like it, and that difference changes everything. Chapter 3. The difference between wealth and status. The easiest way to look rich is often the fastest way to stay poor. That sounds backwards. After all, when most people imagine wealth, they picture things they can see. Luxury cars, designer clothes, expensive watches, private jets, beautiful homes, exotic vacations. Our culture has taught us to associate visible luxury with financial success, but appearances can be remarkably deceptive. Imagine walking through two different neighborhoods. In the first, every driveway is filled with expensive cars. Every home seems designed to impress. Every purchase announces success. In the second neighborhood, nothing immediately stands out. The cars are modest. The homes are comfortable but understated. No one seems interested in proving anything. Now imagine discovering that the second neighborhood has a higher average net worth. Would that surprise you? For many people, it would, because we have been trained to recognize symbols of wealth instead of wealth itself. The truth is, real wealth is surprisingly difficult to see. You can see a luxury car. You cannot see whether it is fully paid for. You can see a designer suit. You cannot see the investment portfolio quietly growing in the background. You can see an expensive vacation. You cannot see the years of disciplined saving that made it possible. The most valuable parts of financial freedom are often invisible. Patience is invisible. Discipline is invisible. Wise investing is invisible. Living below your means is invisible. Those habits rarely attract attention, yet they quietly build a foundation that visible success often rests upon. Status works differently. Status depends on being noticed. It asks a simple question. What will other people think of me? Wealth asks a different question. What kind of life am I creating? One depends on the opinions of strangers. The other depends on your own decisions. That difference changes everything. Think about how many purchases people make, not because they improve life, but because they improve appearances. A larger house than they truly need, a newer car than they can comfortably afford, clothes chosen more for admiration than usefulness. These decisions are rarely irrational. They are deeply human. Every person wants to feel respected, valued, successful. The problem begins when appearance becomes more important than reality. Because reality pays your bills. Reality creates opportunities. Reality provides freedom. Appearances can only create impressions, and impressions are surprisingly expensive to maintain. There is nothing wrong with enjoying beautiful things. Nothing wrong with rewarding yourself after years of hard work. Luxury itself is not the problem. The question is always why. Would you still want that purchase if no one else could ever see it? If the answer is yes, perhaps it reflects genuine appreciation. If the answer is no, perhaps you are never buying the object at all. Perhaps you are buying approval. That is one of the most expensive purchases a person can ever make, because approval has no finish line. No matter how impressive today's purchase becomes, tomorrow, someone else will own something even more impressive. The race never ends, and a race without a finish line can consume an entire lifetime. The truly wealthy understand something different. Freedom is not found in convincing people that you are successful. Freedom is found in no longer needing to. That is why many financially secure people live far more quietly than the world expects. Their confidence no longer depends on constant recognition. Their success does not need an audience. Their choices are guided by purpose rather than performance. Status is a performance. Wealth is a foundation. One is built to be seen. The other is built to last. So ask yourself one honest question. If nobody could see what you owned, if there were no compliments, no admiration, no social media, no applause, would you still want the same life you're working so hard to build? Because the answer to that question reveals far more than your financial goals. It reveals your priorities. And those priorities quietly shape every financial decision you make. But appearances are only one force influencing money. Beneath every investment, every purchase, every financial risk, there are emotions. Fear, greed, hope, and impatience. Understanding those emotions may be one of the greatest financial advantages a person can ever develop. Chapter 4. Fear, Greed, and Financial Decisions. Money has no emotions. People do. It never panics. And yet every day, millions of financial decisions are driven by exactly those emotions. That is why two people can face the same opportunity, receive the same information, and walk away with completely different outcomes. The difference is rarely intelligence. It is often emotion. Fear is one of the oldest emotions we possess. It exists to protect us. It warns us against danger. It encourages caution. Without fear, humanity would never have survived. But like every powerful emotion, fear can become destructive when it begins making every decision. Fear whispers, "Wait a little longer. You're not ready. What if you fail? What if you lose everything?" Sometimes those warnings are wise. But sometimes they quietly become excuses. Opportunities rarely arrive, wrapped in certainty. Every meaningful business began before success was guaranteed. Every investment carried some uncertainty. Every worthwhile goal demanded a step into the unknown. A life ruled entirely by fear often becomes smaller with every passing year. Not because fear destroys ability, but because it slowly destroys courage. Then comes greed. Unlike fear, greed rarely sounds cautious. It sounds confident. It whispers, "Take the bigger risk. You're different. This time will be easy. Just a little more." Greed has an extraordinary ability to convince intelligent people that limits no longer apply to them. It makes patience feel unnecessary, preparation feel boring, discipline feel optional. History has repeated this lesson countless times. People become convinced that success will continue forever, that nothing can go wrong, that rules somehow no longer apply, and that is often the moment judgment begins to disappear. The danger isn't ambition. Ambition builds businesses, creates innovation, drives progress. The danger is believing that confidence alone can replace wisdom. Fear tells us never to move. Greed tells us never to stop. Wisdom knows when to do both. Most people spend their financial lives trapped between these two emotions. When everything appears successful, greed encourages them to chase even harder. When difficulties appear, fear tells them to abandon the journey entirely. They move from one extreme to another, rarely stopping long enough to think clearly. This pattern appears everywhere. People often hesitate when opportunities quietly exist, yet rush forward only after everyone else has already noticed them. They seek comfort in following the crowd because agreement feels safer than independent thinking. But crowds are emotional, and emotions spread remarkably quickly. Optimism becomes contagious. So does panic. One person's fear becomes another person's certainty. One person's excitement becomes another person's urgency. Without realizing it, people begin borrowing emotions from everyone around them. That may be one of the greatest financial dangers of all, because borrowed emotions often produce borrowed decisions, and borrowed decisions rarely create extraordinary lives. Think back to the biggest financial mistake you have ever made. Perhaps you spent money trying to impress someone. Perhaps you ignored an opportunity because you doubted yourself. Perhaps you acted too quickly or waited too long. Now ask yourself one honest question. Was that decision truly caused by a lack of knowledge or by an emotion you didn't recognize until much later? For many people, the answer is surprisingly clear. Knowledge is important. But knowledge without emotional discipline is like giving a powerful ship to a captain who cannot navigate a storm. The problem is not the ship. The problem is the person steering it. Money rewards many things: skill, patience, consistency, good judgment. But perhaps, above all, it rewards the ability to remain calm when emotions demand immediate action. Because clear thinking is often the rarest financial advantage of all. And the people who learn to master their emotions often discover that they have already mastered one of the most difficult parts of building wealth. But there is one final truth that money can never purchase, no matter how much someone earns. No matter how successful they become, there are certain qualities that wealth has never been able to buy. And those qualities may be worth more than money itself. Chapter 5. The habits money cannot buy. Money can buy almost anything: a larger home, a faster car, a first-class ticket, the finest clothes, the best technology, access to places that once seemed impossible. But there are certain things that money has never been able to purchase, and they happen to be the very qualities that determine whether wealth lasts. Imagine giving a fortune to two different people. One has spent years developing discipline. The other has spent years avoiding responsibility. They receive the same amount, the same opportunity, the same financial freedom. Yet years later, one has multiplied what they were given. The other has quietly watched it disappear. The money was identical. The habits were not. This is because money follows rules that many people overlook. It rewards certain behaviors over long periods of time. Discipline is one of them. Discipline cannot be transferred from one person to another. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be purchased. It is built through thousands of ordinary decisions that nobody applauds. Choosing what is necessary over what is immediately satisfying. Keeping promises you made to yourself. Continuing when motivation has already disappeared. Those choices seem small, but over time, they become the foundation upon which every meaningful achievement is built. Then there is patience. Perhaps the rarest financial habit of all. We live in a world that rewards speed, instant communication, instant entertainment, instant delivery, instant results. Naturally, many people begin expecting wealth to follow the same pattern. But lasting wealth has always respected a different clock. Trees do not become forests overnight. Mastery does not arrive in a weekend. Great businesses are rarely built in a few months. The strongest foundations are almost always built slowly. Patience is not passive. It is the discipline to continue working long after excitement has faded. That is why patient people often achieve what impatient people abandon. Another quality money cannot buy is integrity. Trust is one of the few assets that becomes more valuable every time it is honored. People remember those who keep their word, those who act honestly even when dishonesty would be easier, those who choose principles over convenience. Money can open doors. Integrity determines whether those doors remain open. Once trust is broken, no amount of wealth can instantly restore it. It must be earned again. Slowly. One decision at a time. Then comes humility. Success has a quiet danger. It can convince people that every success was entirely their own doing, that they no longer need advice, that they have nothing left to learn. But humility keeps the mind open. It reminds us that every achievement still leaves room for growth. The moment learning stops, growth quietly follows. Some of the wisest people in history shared one remarkable quality. The more they learned, the more they realized how much remained unknown. That attitude protected them from the arrogance that has destroyed countless fortunes. Now ask yourself something. If every dollar you owned disappeared tomorrow, what would remain? Would your discipline remain? Would your patience remain? Would your integrity remain? Would your ability to learn remain? Because if those qualities survive, then your greatest wealth has never truly disappeared. It simply hasn't revealed itself again yet. That is the difference between possessing money and possessing the qualities that create it. Fortunes rise and fortunes fall. Markets change. Economies expand and contract, but character continues making decisions through every season. It quietly influences every opportunity you recognize, every relationship you build, every promise you keep, every risk you choose to take. Perhaps that is why some people rebuild after losing everything. They did not lose the habits that created success in the first place. Money came and went. Character remained, and character began building again. The greatest investment you will ever make is not the one that earns the highest financial return. It is the one that transforms the person making every future decision. Because the habits money cannot buy are often the very habits that money rewards the most. And that leads us to one final realization. In the end, the amount of money you make will never matter as much as the person you become while making it. Chapter 6. The person you become matters more than the money you make. The greatest investment you will ever make will never appear on a bank statement. It will never be measured by a stock market. It will never be counted in cash. Its value is found somewhere far more important. In the person you become. Throughout history, fortunes have been built and fortunes have disappeared. Great companies have risen, only to fall decades later. Entire industries have transformed. Currencies have lost value. Markets have crashed. Economies have changed. Money has always been temporary. But there is something that often survives long after wealth is gone. The ability to create value. The ability to solve problems. The discipline to begin again. The courage to continue after failure. These qualities cannot be stolen by a recession. They cannot be erased by a market crash. They cannot disappear because circumstances become difficult. That is why some people lose everything, yet somehow build it back again. From the outside, it appears as though they rebuilt their fortune. But in reality, they rebuilt it because they never lost the qualities that created it in the first place. Their bank account changed, their character did not. That is an important distinction because many people spend years trying to increase their income without spending equal time increasing their judgment. They study markets but neglect discipline. They chase opportunity but ignore integrity. They search for better investments while forgetting to invest in themselves. Yet every financial decision, no matter how large or small, passes through the same mind. If that mind lacks patience, money suffers. If it lacks wisdom, money suffers. If it lacks honesty, relationships suffer. Businesses suffer. Trust suffers. The greatest financial return often begins long before the first dollar is earned. It begins with becoming someone capable of making wise decisions consistently. Think about the people history remembers. Some were wealthy, some were not. Yet very few are remembered simply because they possessed money. They are remembered because of what they built, what they taught, what they created, how they treated others, the opportunities they gave to people who otherwise would never have had them. Money may have expanded their influence, but character determined how that influence was used. Now imagine something different. Imagine that instead of leaving someone your entire fortune, you could leave them only your habits, your discipline, your integrity, your patience, your curiosity, your ability to remain calm under pressure. Would those habits eventually create wealth again, or would they create something even more valuable? Because wealth is not only measured by possessions, it is measured by capability. The capability to create, to adapt, to recover, to improve. That capability lives inside the person, not inside the money. Perhaps that is why some people become prisoners of wealth, while others remain masters of it. One believes money defines their identity. The other understands that identity defines what money becomes. There is a profound difference between owning money and allowing money to own you. One creates freedom. The other creates dependence. The world will always encourage you to measure success by visible things. The size of your house, the model of your car, the balance in your account. But there is another measure that receives far less attention. Can you make wise decisions when no one is watching? Can you remain honest when dishonesty would be profitable? Can you stay patient when everyone else is rushing? Can you remain grateful after success and determined after failure? Those questions reveal a kind of wealth that no economy can take away. So perhaps the most valuable investment has never been found in a business, a property, or a financial account. Perhaps the most valuable investment has always been the quiet work of shaping your own character. Because fortunes may come and go, opportunities may appear and disappear, but the person making every decision remains. And in the end, that person will always be your greatest asset. Conclusion. The man in the mirror. Money has fascinated humanity for thousands of years. Wars have been fought over it. Empires have been built because of it. Families have been united by it and divided by it. Some have spent their entire lives chasing it. Others have spent their lives fearing its loss. Yet after everything we have explored, perhaps the greatest lesson is surprisingly simple. Money has never been the destination. It has always been the mirror. It reflects our priorities, our fears, our discipline, our patience, our values, and ultimately, the person we choose to become. Throughout this journey, we have asked difficult questions. Why do we chase wealth? Why does money reveal character? Why do some people pursue status while others pursue freedom? Why do fear and greed influence even the smartest minds? And why are the greatest qualities behind lasting wealth impossible to purchase? Every one of those questions points toward the same answer. Money is powerful, but it is never more powerful than the person making decisions about it. A wise person with little can often build much. An unwise person with much can quietly lose everything. Not because money failed them, but because character determines what money becomes in our hands. The world will continue measuring success by visible things. Income, cars, homes, luxury, titles, recognition. Those things have their place, but they were never meant to define a life. Because when the applause fades, when markets change, when fortunes rise and fall, Only one investment continues, paying dividends every single day. The investment you made in yourself, your judgment, your integrity, your patience, your discipline, your ability to remain calm when others panic, your willingness to think long term when others chase immediate rewards. Those qualities continue creating value long after money has changed hands. One day, someone may remember how much money you earned, but they are far more likely to remember something else. The opportunities you created, the promises you kept, the people you helped, the example you lived. Because wealth may change your circumstances, but character changes your legacy. So before you ask how to earn your next dollar, ask a different question. Who am I becoming while I earn it? Because every financial decision is doing two things at once. It is shaping your future, and it is shaping you. Never forget that. Money can open doors. It can create possibilities. It can provide comfort, but it cannot tell you what kind of person to become. That choice has always belonged to you, and perhaps that is the greatest freedom wealth can never replace. So build your wealth. Create value. Pursue excellence. Leave your family better than you found it. Use money wisely, but never allow the pursuit of money to cost you the very character that gives it meaning. Because in the end, your greatest asset will never be the money you accumulate. It will always be the person you become while earning it. And that is a fortune no market can take away.